Greetings, denizens of the internet. My name is Brian Carey. In this Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition video, we will be covering character creation. This video is part 1 of 2. In this video, we're going to review how to create an actual character, how to create the character's persona, what the character is going to look like, what they're going to do, how they're going to behave, its personality traits, ideals, bonds, flaws, and that sort of thing. In part 2 of this video, I'll have a link for that up here, we're going to go over how to actually fill out the character sheet, how to put all the numbers in the right places, and build a character sheet ready for you to play in Dungeons & Dragons. Now check out this sweet animation, during which feel free to like and subscribe to this video. My name is Brian Carey, and I am the Savvy Barbarian. So you've decided to make a character in Dungeons & Dragons. Well, good for you. But here's one thing I would warn you about. If you're a brand new player, or if you're a dungeon master and you've got some brand new players that are going to be starting in your campaign, oh my goodness, do not let them start by building their own character. That is the worst. If you're the dungeon master, build a character for this person. Give them the 30-second interview, see what you think that they might like, and make it for them. Character creation, especially what we're going to cover in part 2 of this video, it's kind of like filling out your taxes. It's terrible. If they've never played Dungeons & Dragons before, they're going to find it excruciatingly boring. But once you've played Dungeons & Dragons and you understand how the character works, and what all the numbers do, and the attributes, and all the bonuses, and all the things, yeah, sure, make a character. Making characters can be a lot of fun. But it's only fun after you've learned how to play Dungeons & Dragons. Now, with that out of the way, let's get started. Step 1. I think this might be arguably the most important part, and for me, one of the more difficult parts of creating a character in Dungeons & Dragons, or in anything for that matter, and that is picking the cool character name. That's right, the name on your character sheet is the part that you're going to be using more than any other field in your entire character sheet. You're going to be using your Dungeons & Dragons character's name a lot. You're not going to be referencing that your strength is 17 very often, but you will say your name all the time. I have sat in front of RPG video games for, oh goodness, half an hour trying to figure out what is my character's name going to be. Oh, so hard. So you want a name that's going to be cool, but maybe not too long, and something that has a neat ring to it, a neat sound to it. And you don't want it to be too incomprehensible, like Shangranush Inkanshalai, or some kind of Kumak Shanganash. I can't even remember what it was. One guy that I played Dungeons & Dragons with had a character name so long and messed up, I never got it right. And it's nice to tweak your character's name after the race or class, whatever your character is going to be. So Lance Thunderfist sounds like an awesome name for a paladin, or maybe Mordecai, the Dark Wizard. But whatever you do, don't pick a terrible name. You do not want to be Bob the Bard. And try to make sure it doesn't rhyme with something terrible. I played with a guy who created a character and it was named Glenariel. And his wife was playing Dungeons & Dragons with us, and she looked over at him the first time she heard that name, was like, Glenariel? That's a terrible name. What is that? It sounds like venereal. Did you name your character after a sex disease? Anyways, thanks for that image. For the rest of the game, I couldn't think of anything. I mean, I remembered Glenariel after that, sure, but the cost. So put a little thought into your name. Figure out a name that is cool. Figure out a name that works with your character's class and race. Put some effort into it. Definitely not Steve the Rogue. Definitely not Steve 3 the Rogue, because your first 2 characters named Steve died. Next, you'll probably want to work out your character's appearance, things like their height, weight, and what race you're going to pick. Your racial attributes will give you a lot of description for what your character is going to look like. If you're a dwarf, you've got pointy ears, you're maybe 5 feet tall, and don't forget that luscious beard. I think it's cool at this point, too, to build some physical quirks into your character. You know, are they wearing an eye patch? Do they have a notch out of one ear? Do they have any tattoos? What do they usually wear? You don't have to get into as much detail as hair, skin, and eye color, but sometimes that's nice. So you knew you were going to need to pick a name for your character, and you knew you were going to have to pick a race. However, this is where it starts to get more interesting. Next, I want you to work out the character's backstory. Backstory is key. We just created a video on villains. I should have a link for that up here as well, where we spent some time talking about how you should make a backstory for your villain. But you of course need a backstory for your heroes. Let me start with this piece. Everybody seems to start their character off as an orphan. I don't know why this is. There's like this odd phenomenon. Most of the characters that I play with, my mom and dad were both killed in the Great War, or my folks were killed when I was a baby and I was raised by wolves. Does every character have to be an orphan every single time? It severs a lot of the neat ideas for character development and character and story arcs. I recommend you don't be an orphan. Obviously, the temptation is there because if you're an orphan, then that frees you up to go off on a great adventure without leaving anybody behind, and sometimes having families that could be attacked in your stead could be a weakness. I mean, I get some of the reasons why people pick orphan, but it's every single time. Don't be an orphan. Another thing that works really well is go through the backgrounds in the player's handbook. The backgrounds can give you a fantastic jumping off point. What's your character about? Is your character maybe a noble? Maybe you had to leave. Maybe you're the bastard son of the king and he had to hide you and stuck you in another village someplace, and discovering your actual genealogy could be part of your character's story arc. Or maybe you've got the criminal background class and you grew up in a family of thieves and that's what you guys did, and it's a family of rogues, and there's a thief clan that's feared throughout the city and works in the shadows and works in the underground. Your character's personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, I have a link for that up here also. Personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, I think are the next most important fields on your entire character sheet after the name. There is little else that comes into play as often in your role play as these 4 fields. Create a backstory. You're not just a guy in a tavern that happens to, on a whim, decide to go off into a foreign land with these other adventurers and fight vampire lords or dragons or something. Come up with an actual backstory. Why are you doing the things that you're doing? Maybe you're on a personal quest for magical knowledge because you're a wizard or a sorcerer. Maybe you're a wild sorcerer and you're looking for somebody to help train you in the ways of your magical powers. Maybe you're a barbarian and you've decided to leave your clan for some falling out that happened, but your family's still alive. You're on the outs with them for now, but you're going to go and make a name for yourself. Backstory is key, and it also helps the dungeon master come up with some neat story hooks, some ways to work your character into the fabric of the story. Once you have your general backstory worked out, come up with some flaws. Again, personality traits, ideals, bonds, and flaws, but come up with flaws. Because flaws are part of what makes us human. We all have them. And minimizing them, well, that doesn't help your story any. You see, in a video game, you don't really want any flaws. You want to be epic. We all play video games. I play video games. They're a lot of fun, but you want all those powers. You want to level up your abilities. You want to be able to run faster and be stronger and have more armor class and more health points and just have as much, eliminate all the weaknesses that you possibly can. But this is not a video game. Dungeons & Dragons is a story. And when you tell a story is about people, and people have flaws. So build yourself some. In comics, all the heroes seem to have some interesting weaknesses. Superman famously has kryptonite. Daredevil has a sonic overload where too much noise will cripple him. Wonder Woman can be bound by her own lasso. You need something like this. And it's a plot device that you can have fun with, and your dungeon master might choose to exploit that a little bit as well. Your character's weakness could be love of family, or desire for magical artifacts, or knowledge or power. You may have a weakness for gold and wealth. You may have an aversion to human suffering. If you're a drow or a dwarf, maybe you really can't stand sunlight. An elf might be weakened by leaving their home forest. And work out some of your character's dislikes as well. Some of your characters will like certain things and dislike other things. Figure out what those are. It can be funny. And it can be interesting. In Dwayne Johnson's new movies, Jumanji, you can see one of the characters has a weakness to cake. It's just a goofball idea, and it actually works great as a comedic plot device. And the character is actually, after he explodes from touching cake, he is scared to death of cake, and it's it's fabulous. Flaws are key. Don't make crummy flaws. Make some mortally bad flaws. Maybe your character just wants to hang out in the bar and drink too much. Maybe your character likes to pick pockets and or is hooked on gambling, or maybe they just love pie. So don't scrimp on the flaws. Next, try to work out some relationships for your character. Your character shouldn't just exist in a vacuum. There should be relationships. You had a mother and you had a father, and maybe you have grandparents and aunts and uncles. Maybe, like, imagine that whole extended family where everybody wants a piece of you. You're the big, strong, heroic type, and they all think, the hopes and dreams of the family are hanging on you. Maybe you've been selected by your clan to go out and do great things or answer the call of the king. Work out some relationships between yourself and other members of your party. I play with a group where some of the people are married in real life, and interestingly, most of the people in the party aren't married to their characters aren't married to each other, even though the people are married in real life. But that can be a lot of fun when they are. I've played in groups where they decided to be brothers, and I had a lot of fun playing in groups where some of the characters decided to be adversaries. Like, they had a long-running feud instead of just four people who randomly met in a tavern and decided to go somewhere together. It's more fun as players if you come up with a reason that your characters are all together. Maybe you all went to the same wizarding school. Maybe you're all from the same area. Maybe the church has sent you on a noble quest to defeat the bad guy in another land. Also, having relationships with other people that aren't in your party, it allows your dungeon master to come up with some interesting plot hooks. Perhaps your bedridden great-grandfather is still alive, and I need you to recover a magic sword that I left. Oh, where was it? It was one of those 2 caves, or 3, over there. Oh, come on, Grandpa. No, I need you to get the sword. I'd go with you myself, but, And suddenly the family's honor is part of the quest. And again, the flaws, the backstory, and the relationships especially give your dungeon master some hooks to pull your character into the story and weave your character's peculiarities and weave that into the tapestry of your story. This next one's optional. If you do role play, come up with an interesting accent or some physical mannerisms that your character does in the game. Maybe get a couple of neat catchphrases that your character likes to use as well. This is optional because not everybody likes to actually do the role play. Some people will just state what their character does, and that's totally fine if they do. Some people will say, all right, my character goes up and grabs the sword from the stone and tries to pull it out. And there's nothing wrong with that. And others will say, my character walks up to the stone and he says, glowing handle calls to me, and by my beard, I shall have it. I love when players start to roleplay like that. I can hardly not start doing accents and roleplay when I do the voices for the NPCs, once the characters start to get into it. How dare you, young man? That sword belongs to me. So, just to make sure you got all these, let's do a quick recap. First, spend some time, make a cool name. Next, work out their physical appearance. What race are they? What do they look like? What do they wear? Do they have any interesting physical characteristics? Backstory. Backstory is key. Figure out why the character is doing what they're doing. Make sure your character has goals. Make sure that your character has reasons for doing the things that they're going to do in this campaign. Do not neglect your personality traits, ideals, bonds, and especially flaws. Put some time into your flaws. Make something creative. Make something interesting. These are the things that make your character memorable. Create relationships. Relationships between the characters that you play, between the player characters in the game, and some of the non-player characters that should also be in your game, like, say, family or guild members. And lastly, and optionally, if you roleplay your characters, pick an accent and stick to it. Pick some mannerisms. Pick a few catchphrases. These are things that, as soon as you go into your character, your party, the other players, your dungeon master, they're all going to know exactly who you are and what you're doing. So that should be it for part 1 of Character Creation in Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition. In part 2, we're going to go over how to actually fill out your character sheet. Put all those fancy numbers in. It looks like you're doing your taxes, but it's not really all that bad. And now I've got a quest for you. I would like you to click the like button, and then, after you've clicked the like button, I would like you to click the subscribe button, and ring the bell icon. Is it here? It's right about here, isn't it? Click the like and subscribe and ring the bell icon. It goes a long way to helping out my small but growing channel. I want to thank you all for watching, and if you've got any questions, feel free to leave those in the comments. I pledge to read all my comments, so feel free to leave some. Don't forget to check out SavvyBarbarian.com. I've got links to books that I'm selling, as long as some other free goodness. You can sign up on a mailing list if you want to, or not, as you wish. But if you do pick up my books, it helps support the things that I'm doing here on this channel. We'll see you next time for part 2 of Character Creation. My name is Brian Carey, and I am the Savvy Barbarian.